Mic check. Good evening, my brothers and sisters. We are extremely happy and delighted to have you viewers this evening. Welcome to all those who are watching us on YouTube and Facebook. We are about to go into our Fires of Hope Evangelism training. We invite you at this time to like, subscribe, and share our YouTube channel, Central Jamaica Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. This evening, we'll be having two segments of our training. Segment number 1 takes place with Dr. Errol Bryce, and segment 2 takes place with Dr. Carlton Byrd. Who is Dr. Errol Bryce? He is an assistant professor of medicine. He is also a emeritus of the Baylor All Saints Medical Center. He's the president of the New Steps to Health nonprofit organization, and he has been certified by the General Conference as a credentialed lay evangelist, former health ministries director of the Texas Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. We are extremely delighted and happy to have him as our first presenter this evening. He did an outstanding job at our recently held camp meeting and lay institute. Without further ado, my brothers and sisters, please welcome Dr. Errol Bryce.
Hi, I'm Dr. Errol Bryce, and we wanted to invite you to be a super performer. You'll be so successful, everything you touch will turn to gold. But there's a job. So this week we'll be talking about the pursuit. We talked about last week how you'll get all these blessings. Everything you touch will turn to gold. And there is a catch. One, you have to give acknowledgement to the person who is giving you all these blessings. And then he'll be asking you to do something. And what he's asking you to do is called the pursuit. He'll give you a set of instructions, and there is no wiggle room. You can't turn to the left, or you can't turn to the right. And today, I'm going to talk to you about one of these things that he really wants you to do. Is called the pursuit. And we can read it in Genesis chapter 3, verses 9 and 10. But let me give you the context as we read this. So I think the best place for you to figure out how to be a hotshot, how to be fabulous, how to be successful is from a source that is really true. And I'm suggesting that the Bible is the best place to get this information. In a land, in a time when there is so much falsehood, so many conspiracy theories, so many artificial information that is not true, that you wonder where can you find a way to get information. And the Bible is the only source that predicts the future. If you can find something else that can predict the future with 100% accuracy, then you can take that source. But as a physician, as a scientist, as a researcher, I have come to the conclusion that the Bible is actually the best place. It tells you what happened to you from the very beginning, and it can also predict the future thousands of years. It tells about every single empire, political system that occurred. It's all there in the Bible. If you get a chance to read Daniel and Revelation, it gives you all of that. All right. So the Bible talks about a time when there was Adam and Eve, that God created Adam and Eve. And then they chose to not follow exactly what he'd asked them to follow. And as a result of that, they got into serious trouble. And this is what we're going to be reading about. Genesis chapter 3, verses 9 and 10. And this is where your job comes in. It says, "Then the Lord God called to Adam and said to him, 'Where are you?'" I'm going to show you some scientific process that goes on inside your brain and why God is turning up asking the question, "Where are you?" Why? Because this is where they were. So he said, "I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid," fear, "because I was naked," shame, "and I hid myself." It later tells that they covered themselves with fig leaves. So when Adam and Eve ate the fruit, they were filled with shame and terror. Steps of Christ, page 41. So there was shame, there was fear, and they started hiding themselves. In one of my previous lectures, I talked about the top-down control. That's what they had before. Now they have the bottom-up control. And so when you have the bottom-up control, you are hiding everything that happens to you. Nobody needs to know about it. You are in a state of constant fear, anxiety, addictions, the whole state. And then someone turns up, someone who is pursuing, asks the question, "Where are you?" And that's where your job comes in. So if you want to be fabulous, number one, be the head wherever you go. The condition is, yes, you can get all of these blessings. However, and this was outlined in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 1 to 13, in case you didn't listen to the last lecture. You can go back and read it for yourselves. You'll be the head and not the tail. To get this, the catch is that you can bask in all these blessings, but you have to give the praise to Him. And you have to follow everything He asks you to do. And in result, He has a job, He has a pursuit. He wants you to walk in His step and ask somebody else, "What happened to you? Where are you?" Okay? So we have that situation. And I want to explain to you how important this is to Him. That when Jesus sent His Son, the Bible talks about it, on planet Earth, and right at the beginning of the 3.5 years that He was here, He went into a church, called it a synagogue. And they put a Bible in His hand. They used to call it a scroll. And He searched, and He searched, and He searched, and He came on one point, and I'm going to read it for you. It's in Luke chapter 4, verses 18 and 19. It says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because He has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, and to proclaim the accepted year of the Lord." That's the job. So He'll give you all these blessings, but there's a pursuit. There's something that He has to accomplish. Matthew 24 and verse 14. "This gospel must be preached in all the world, to all the nations, as a witness, and then the end shall come." So in the context of Matthew 24 and verse 7, where you have COVID, and there's going to be a lot of COVIDs, okay? Things are going to get so bad. You're going to have one catastrophe after another, and it's going to be global. It's going to be major. And in this context, He wants some super performers that He will bless with unlimited blessing. He will open up His storehouse and give it to you. As a matter of fact, there's a little guy, a prophet called Malachi. He says that He will bless you so much that you don't even have room to receive it. Okay? The pursuit. It's very important that you understand it. And let me give you the physiology of this. When Adam and Eve ate the apple, that's the original brain dysfunction that every human being inherited. On top of that, you have adverse childhood experiences that causes what we call dysfunctional amygdala. It actually changes the way your brain function, and you're always on what we call hyper alert. So it can be adult trauma, like post-traumatic stress disorder, any of those. When you experience all of this, it creates a disconnection of the prefrontal cortex, the upper part, the thinking part of your brain, from the limbic system, the lower part of your brain. So this trauma, this sin, this adverse childhood experiences cause a dysfunction of the limbic system they call shame. And it is so uncomfortable that you have to find ways to deal with it. We call them fig leaves. And there's a whole lot of things that you do. The sleeping around, the alcohol, the cigarettes, the gossiping, the doing everything so people you can get attention from others. All of these different things are just fig leaves. And scientists have shown, there's a guy called Vincent Folletti. There is a fantastic book called Your Body Keeps the Score by Bassel van der Kolk. They have outlined, and there are over 500 studies now showing this, that people in this condition, they're searching for one thing, and that is what we call supportive, therapeutic relationships. Wow, now I just put you to sleep. I want to wake up. I want you to just get up. Let me have your attention is. This trauma that we all go through, this mess that we grew up in, one thing that will change that course is called supportive, therapeutic relationship. Okay? And the way that works is there's a specific way in which somebody has to come along and be kind to you. Somebody has to come by and be compassionate. Somebody has to come by and just love you. This is the pursuit. So we're looking for 7,000 people in Central Jamaica Conference to sign up to be among the 7,000 people who are willing to be one of those who will carry this pursuit forward. And the next lecture, we're going to go into more detail with this. But I want to show you a little trick. It's in volume, Testimonies to the Church, volume 9, page 189. It says, if you're humble enough to abandon what you were doing before and to try this, if you are humble, kind-hearted, courteous, pitiful, if that represents you, if you have this outborn kindness to the people around you, okay, there'll be 100 conversions where now there is one. Now you didn't hear me. Listen to this formula. It's an equation for you mathematicians. Y equal mx plus c. If you don't change the c, you can't change the y. If you do the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same results. So if you're going to change any side of the equation, something on the other side of the equation has to change. And what you're saying is, if you are kind-hearted, if you are pitiful, if you're tender-hearted, if you're courteous, if you do this, there will be 100 people changing their lives compared to one before. So we're looking for 7,000 people to try this. And it's not all that difficult. Yes, you will be blessed. The blessing in this is that, the good thing in all of this is that you will be blessed beyond measure. No matter where you are, God is willing to pour out His blessings on you. As long as you're willing to be a part of this pursuit. And give Him the praise. Okay? Just get all the glory to Him. Don't let people honor you and shower you with all these accolades. They mean nothing, because deep down you know that you're really not too smart. And you don't have the gifts to explain all these blessings that's coming on you. You weren't one of those who were born with a golden spoon in your mouth and you had this super genius brain. You know you don't have it. Yet you have all these blessings. And you're willing to give honor, give glory, give praise to where it's coming from. So you get all the blessings. You'll be number one. You'll be ahead of everybody. Everywhere you go, you'll be a winner. You'll be successful. Your bank account will always be full, unless it's not His will. Anything that happens to you differently is because He has something better for you. And He wants you to join it. So He's asking you to try this. So you use courtesy, compassion. You reach out to people around you, and you provide a supportive, therapeutic relationship. And I'm going to give you some examples and show you what this means. My grandmother was a super performer. Yep, she didn't have a big bank account, and as a matter of fact, I don't think she had a bank account at all. But she was a super performer. And every day she got up, she was in pursuit. So where we grew up, we didn't have a lot of food. As a matter of fact, I went to school many days without money. And I would come home after going to school without lunch. And sometimes, not very often, there was no dinner at home. And one of these evenings, I would walk, and there's a little place that I can look through my window, the front window, and I can see where my plate is usually placed. If I don't see any plate there, I know there's no food. And the first time when I walk home, I'd look. And this evening when I came home, there was a carrier. For those who are not from the old ages in the Caribbean, a carrier is a little system where you have one set of like a dish, then can put on another dish, and they can be connected together. When I came home, there was food, but it was all in this carrier system. When I walked in, I was pretty much upset because I didn't see any plate, and I was hungry. And I just started complaining to my grandmother. And my grandmother, who I grew up with, my grandmother said, "Errol, I want you to take this dinner up to a woman about 2 miles up the road." So I said, "Where's my dinner?" She said, "Errol, I heard about this situation. Your dinner was the only one left. You can survive one day without anything to eat. This woman has not eaten for 3 days." So I grabbed it. I was upset, and I walked. I went up to this house. I knocked the door. The door was a little bit open. As I knocked the door, and I slowly opened the door, and the smell was it's like a wall of the most pungent stink. I mean, it was unbelievably repugnant. And I decided to just go in quickly and just leave the thing and get out. And as I slowly opened the door, I heard, "Who is that?" I said, "It's me." "So what's your name?" "So my name is Errol." "Who is your mother?" "Miss Reese." "Okay, come on in." So I opened the door and I went in. And when I went in, the lady said to me, "There is a glass on that table. If you could pour some water in that glass for me and give it to me." Guys, the smell, my head was spinning. My eyes was tearful. I mean, the smell was overpowering. This woman, for 3 days, was passing stool on herself, urine on herself for 3 days. And I walked right into that. And I gave her a glass of water. And she drank it. And she said, "Can you give me another glass of water?" I went over and I poured the glass of water, into the glass, and I gave it to her. When I gave it to her, she drank it. She said, "Can you give me another glass of water?" She was severely dehydrated. And she said, I smell that your mother gave you some food. And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "Feed me." And I sat there, and you know, as a little boy, I thought God created a miracle, but that smell went away. And I realize now, as a physician, that what happened was that my nose adjusted to it. But the smell went away. And I fed that woman. And when I came back, I walked out of the house, and I went back to tell my mother about this deplorable situation. And when I got there, my grandmother was sitting on the front porch of her house. And as she sat there, she had a pail. She had a cleansing liquid they call J's. It's like a detergent with a horrible smell. And Dettol, smelled worse. And she had all of that in a sponge and water that she was going to carry to this house. And as I walked in, I told her what was going on. She said, "I know, Errol. I heard about it." And looking back, I realized that she just wanted me to be a part of it. She could have left, she could have taken it herself, but she wanted me to learn the importance of the pursuit. Now, she cleaned up that woman. She had fresh dress. She had, linen. She had powder. It wasn't more than about maybe six weeks, 2 months later, I stood up in the front of the Spanish Town Seventh-day Adventist Church and watched that woman become baptized. Yep, the pursuit. Little acts of kindness. A supportive relationship. Reaching people at their greatest need. You change hearts. And we need 7,000 people to sign up for this. It was the summer. Spanish Town. Little district called Thompson. It was hot. And I was outside playing. And it was so hot that there was a drought in Jamaica. No rain for months. And when that happens, the government would get water trucks that would come to the city, fill their tanks, and transport water to the rural parts of Jamaica where there was no running, no irrigation. And right before my house was a fire hydrant where the trucks would come and the tanks would become filled with water. And so this day, my grandmother called me and said, "Errol, I want you to take this glass of water to that man in the truck." So she would take the glass of water up to the man and gave it to him. And I would wait until he would drink the water. I would take it back. It's beautifully covered with a saucer and a paper towel. And I would wait for him to drink the water. I'll take it back to my grandmother. The next day he would come back. She would do the same. The next day he would come back. She'd do the same. You know, and as a little boy, couldn't have been more than about 7, 8 years of age, I remember walking just to make sure I don't stumble with this glass of water. And one day when I took the water to him, he asked me, "Young boy, youth man, come here. Come here, little boy. Which church does your mother go to?" And I said, "Oh, she goes to the church on Brunswick Avenue in Spanish Town." He said, No. Is she a Methodist? Is she a Baptist? He said, "What kind of church she goes to?" So I said, "She's a Seventh-day Adventist." I said, "Okay." The next, I went and I told my grandmother that he asked me a question. She said, "Take this little book to him And it's a book. I've never seen it. It's called Hope of the Race. It's a red book, hardcover, with dog ears. And I took this book to him. And he read the book. And one Saturday morning, I was going to church. I passed this red water truck so often I knew it. And as I walked to church, almost 3 blocks away from the church, from the church, on a corner was this big red water truck. And I went to my grandmother. I said, you know, Mama, you remember that man that we took the water from? I think he's going to be in church today. She said, how do you know that? I saw this big red truck. I know it's his. And she said, no, come on. Just go to church. So I said, no, I really think it's him, and I think he's going to be in church. And she said, okay, just go inside, go to church, go to your Sabbath school. And so I decided I would not go to church because this guy doesn't know anybody. If he comes, I'm the only one that he will know. So I stayed outside, and of course, I couldn't let my grandmother know. And so I was outside, and sure enough, I saw the man walking up, coming to church. So I walked over to him. So I went to my grandmother, and I said, Mama, he's here, he's coming. And she said, sit down, just ignore him, just pretend that you don't. I said, no, I can't do that. He doesn't know anybody. And so I pulled away from her, and I ran out to him. And as he came through the door, the gate, I went and I slipped my hand in his. And he looked at me, and he smiled. And we walked in. And as we walked in, I went to, let me tell you, if you come to the Spanish Town Church, when I was going to it, there is no seat. You can't come and find seat. No visitor can come in. I walked him right up to where I normally sit. And there was Don Broadbelt and these guys. I said, Don, get over. And they would get up and they'll move, and I'd give him a seat. A few weeks, months, I don't know, I had the privilege of seeing that man go down in baptism. And the last face he saw when he went down was my face. And we smiled. And when he got up, he looked at me. And when he came down, I went and I held his hand again. Friends, just from the kindness of one glass of water. That's how it works. Supportive, therapeutic relationships with kindness, with compassion, with tenderheartedness, loving kindness, acts of love. You use that as a method of reaching individuals who are at their worst. Just yesterday, I heard some news about the president of the Inter-American Division. And I went to the paper as soon as sunset. I went to my computer to research to see what was going on. And I read this story on Jennifer Blake. Jennifer, at 2 years of age, was thrown away. Apparently her mother, according to the paper, was a prostitute. And 2 weeks passed and her mother never came back. And so the baby was left with someone, and the person that the baby was left with threw the baby away. Somehow the baby was picked up, and she was taken care of by a foster mother. But in the middle of the story she gave credit to this person called Dion Henry. I don't know who this Dion Henry is, but this person she gave credit, rescued her, turned up for her. Jennifer Blake is now graduating at the top of her class, highest honors at UTech, as a midwife in midwifery, top of her class, number one, blessed because somebody turned up. She talked about being sexually molested since she was 3 years of age. First child when she was 16, and when she was 18, and then when she was 20. There was this self-hate, this anger that she wanted to kill everybody who did this to her. But Dion Henry turned up. The pursuit. With loving kindness. With compassion. A glass of water. Helping you when you're on your back, when you have had a stroke and couldn't move, and there's no family member. These needs are met with the pursuit of God's love. After the trauma, the adverse childhood experiences, people are going through this shame and this terror. And by love, by kindness, by being tender-hearted to them, you calm the pain. One study uses the term trusted adult. Someone has to surface as a trusted adult, as a supportive therapeutic relationship person. You have to turn up with this kindness. And with that, you can turn the life of someone. Oprah Winfrey, you can Google it and you see the video. Oprah Winfrey, ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences, attributes, after she was sexually molested as a child, her trusted adult was her 5th grade teacher. Friends, we're looking for 7,000 people to join this army, to go out and do thousands of acts of kindness, build a therapeutic relationship, be there for one person, 2, or whoever the Lord leads you to. We want you to decide to be blessed, to be the head and not the tail. Give the praise to Him. Give the glory to Him. You can be number 1. Everything you touch will be gold. But He wants you to follow every command. He will guide you to someone where He can pursue that person through you. It's as simple as that. Next week, we're going to show you how you can work as a group and maximize your success even more than you can working by yourself. So friends, I want you to answer this call. You can email us at health@centralja.org. centralja.org. Email us and let us know, I am one of the 7,000. I want to be trained for this. I want to pursue in the name of the one who loves us all. Looking forward to see you next week.
Such a wonderful presentation. Truly, we were immensely blessed by that presentation a few moments ago. We will be transitioning into our next. We will be transitioning into the next segment at this time. Last week, we began the first of 4 presentations with the man of God, Dr. Carlton Byrd. It gives me great pleasure to introduce and to present him to you one more time. I would have told you last week that he serves currently as the senior pastor for the Oakwood Seventh-day Adventist Church, located in Huntsville, Alabama. God has blessed his ministry tremendously. Over 22,000 individuals have surrendered their lives to God as a result of his ministry. Beside every successful man, there is a good woman. And I'm happy to know that Dr. Carlton Byrd heeded the divine mandate, which says it is not good for the man to be alone. And so his eyes caught